Hello and welcome everybody. Today's webinar is titled Scriptless Automated Testing for Enterprise Applications. This webinar is being brought to you by IDEXCEL and Turnkey Solutions, and the speakers for today's webinar are Venkata Dasari, Director of Testing Services with IDEXCEL, and Brad Calloway, Director with Turnkey Solutions. In this webinar, you will learn about the importance of automation for enterprise applications and the most efficient way to do automation. A few tips about the platform we are using to deliver this webinar. Once the presenter starts the webinar, all the phone lines will be put on mute so that we have a clearer audio from the presenter. You can ask questions anytime you want on the moderated chat window at the right-hand corner of your screen. And if you miss any part of the webinar, you can visit our website, idexcel.com, and listen to this webinar on demand. Before we start the webinar, we would like to introduce IDEXCEL and Turnkey Solutions. IDEXCEL is an IT services company providing cutting-edge technology solutions and testing services to Fortune 500 companies since 1998. We are 700 associates strong and have 10 global delivery locations. And we are proud to say that most of our workforce is domain certified, and thus we bring in domain knowledge, technical capabilities, and thought leadership to our client engagements. We are partners with industry-leading technology giants like Oracle, IBM, Microsoft, and HP, and we are also partners with leading solution providers such as Turnkey Solutions. Turnkey Solutions was founded in 1989 and has been an HP technology partner since 1995. Turnkey Solutions helped develop BPT. They are one of only 3 companies with HP OEM resale agreement, which underscores strategic value to global HP ALM customer base. Their automated testing solutions are built exclusively on the industry-leading HP ALM technology stack. And their scriptless automated testing is designed for business users, not just IT, and completely eliminates VB coding and deep QTP skill set requirements. With that, I welcome Venkat to take over and deliver the webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you, Anna. First of all, I would like to welcome you all and thank you all for joining us for this webinar. Let's take a quick look at the agenda for today. We'll be talking about the advantages of test automation. We'll also be talking about the traditional automation tools and the various hiccups that they have. And as a QA organization and QA resource or person, what kind of expectations do you have of test automation tools? We'll be covering that. And then we'll go into the deep dive for scriptless test automation. And finally, we'll open up the floor for questions. So many of us have been in situations where we have to cover a lot of testing to be done in a short period of time. And at times, we'll have a huge regression path to cover. And in such situations, we resort to options like risk-based testing and obviously automation. So automation provides improved efficiencies. No doubt it provides productivity and predictability. And at the end of the day, all this will help the organization tremendously optimize their testing efforts. So everybody understands that automation is important and it brings value and efficiency into the testing efforts. But the traditional test automation tools that all of us have used in the past, they do have a lot of hiccups and shortfalls. To begin with, if you understand the test automation effort estimation process, a lot of effort is parked in the test automation creation place. A lot of effort is a big chunk of effort is invested in script creation rather than actually using the scripts and execution parts. Also, all of the traditional automation tools use proprietary specific tool specific and proprietary languages, unlike the Java and VB. So if you have to have good return from these automation tools, you need to use experts who have been trained on these tools and the languages. One of the biggest problems that automation has is in the maintenance of the scripts. So any small change in the UI will have to be, the scripts have to be corrected to make sure that the changes in the UI did not really impact the script. So in spite of each of these traditional automation tools having their own share of problems, everybody understands that automation does help bringing in efficiencies into your testing efforts. So if you look at automation tools and as a testing organization or QA organization, what would you want in your automation tool? So the first thing is the test tool must allow you to create scripts and maintain them with a few clicks and drag and drop features. This will tremendously reduce the test case creation effort or test scripts creation effort. Also, the tool should not require you to learn any new languages. So this gives the ability for SMEs and business analysts and business users to be able to create scripts. So this can be achieved by going the scriptless way. So scriptless is not one of the ways, but it is the way to go. So if you look at the CRM kind of applications and ERP kind of applications, which are enterprise class applications, they're a whole different beast. They take almost a couple of years or more for implementation, and a lot of customizations are put into these apps, and also quite a lot of functionality is used just out of the box. So in such situations, you'll need an automation tool that can really help you quickly automate and also provide any pre-built automation scripts for the out-of-box functionality. So this is exactly where IDXL and Turnkey partnerships comes into picture. So we collectively provide tremendous value from the tool as well as the services standpoint. The best part is this approach, the scriptless automation approach, works best for both ERP kind of applications, CRM kind of applications, as well as the web-based applications. So in a moment, my friend Brad will walk us through the scriptless automation philosophy and its value proposition, and you will see how easy it is to automate using scriptless automation methodology, and how easy it is to create as well as maintain these scripts. Over to you, Brad.
Okay, thanks, Venkat. Appreciate it. As Venkat said, my name is Brad Calloway. I'm Director of Global Pre-Sales at Turnkey Solution. And I first wanted to kind of start with what we call traditional test automation technology. And what we mean by that is just about every tool on the market today is what we call record and playback. What that means is that to create an automation test script, what we do is we actually walk through the application with the automation testing tool open, and what we do is we create a program based on the steps that we take to walk through the business process. Now, to run my automation, what I do actually is run that script that we created. So it's going to go through each and every step as I performed it during the recording. Okay, and what's really behind the scenes in record and playback technology is there's actually a program that is written. And on playback, it's running that program. And that program is, some type of programming language. Typically, it could be JavaScript, might be VB script. But in the end, it's a program that as the application changes, I need to modify that program or I need to re-record that script. Okay? So the next thing I have to ask myself is what happens when I replay the test and I get an error? What do I need to go ahead and do to go ahead and maintain that automation? Okay, but thinking about record and playback technology and what it means for complex business processes is that if I take a look at a single business process, such as creating a requisition, what I'll find out is that I have many different business scenarios that I have to cover under the create requisition test case. So in your traditional record and playback technology, what that means is that for each one of those business scenarios, I'm going to have a different script, or more importantly, I'm going to have to go through the application for each and every one of those business scenarios and create a program based on that specific scenario. So, for example, approving a requisition, foreign currency, pricing flexibility, all these different scenarios for creating a requisition become a different test script. So what I end up with is a large library of test scripts that in the end are just programs that have to be maintained. Okay, and here's an example on the screen of what my test script looks like. It's VB script that I need a technical resource to go in to be able to go ahead and modify this based on the changes that I might be making to my application. Okay, so here's an example of replaying a script. What's going to happen is I'm going to encounter an error. And now I need to go back and identify whether it's a change that I've made to my application that caused this error, or if I've actually found a bug. If I've made a change to my application, say I introduced a new field to this application screen that's required, I didn't record this in my initial script, so now I need to go modify my automation to incorporate that change. What does that mean? That means I actually have to go into the program, find the specific area which failed, and have the expertise to modify that VB script to account for that new field that I've introduced to my application. Okay, so there's two different ways to handle business process complexity within the traditional automation methodology. One is to record a test for each scenario. Now this isn't great because I have a lot of different scenarios for many different business processes that I want to run. What this is going to mean is that I'm going to have a huge library of recorded tests that I have to maintain going forward. The other way to go about it is to duplicate the logic in my application within my test automation. Now this requires a high level of skill in whatever language your automation tool is automated with. But either case, what it comes down to is to be able to build and maintain my automation, I need very skilled resources. And what happens is based on the size of my test script library and the needs to modify my automation based on changes I'm making to my applications, I never really get to building out the coverage that I intended to. I spend the majority of my time maintaining what I have. And that's why most companies don't get to the level of automation that they set out to automate. So here we can see a guy being buried in work because what happens with record and playback technology is I create a very large library, and the effort it takes to go ahead and maintain that library is very expensive and very hard to maintain. And that's typically why companies never achieve more than 20% automation. Now with the Turnkey Solution, which I'll detail now, we have an application called cFactory, which allows us to automate our applications without programming. I'm going to explain a concept now that I want hopefully everybody understands. You're going to hear me use the term component, and you'll see component generator on the screen. Just think of a component as a representation of an application screen, and the component is the automation artifact for that application screen. So it's an object that automates a specific screen. And what a component does is it creates an object for that I can drag and drop into test cases. Okay. The other thing that I want to point out is cFactory supports many, many different types of applications, and in fact uses HP's QTP, which stands for Quick Test Professional, as the engine that's going to execute the test. QTP is an industry-leading test automation tool that supports more applications than any other automation tool on the market today. So whether you're a .NET-based application, a web application, a Java application, cFactory is going to support that based on the support of QTP. Okay. cFactory is a scriptless architecture that replaces the record and playback technology with the automation of the creation of components, and also removes the script redundancy. It removes the script redundancy with its incorporated data-driven architecture. What this means is that I can create one test case and run through all those different create requisition iterations with one test case, literally letting the data drive the test. So as a business user enters data into what we call our data sheet, they're going to be able to control the flow of the test, drastically reducing the number of test cases needed, and therefore drastically reducing the amount of maintenance that you have to perform to keep your test cases up to date. As we can automatically generate these components and string them together to create test cases, we're going to dramatically decrease the amount of time it takes to create automation. And as we'll see a little bit later on, we also have the ability to automatically maintain these components or maintain our test cases as well without writing a single line of code. And lastly, I want to just reiterate that we're 100% compatible with HP's ALM platform. If you don't know what ALM stands for, it stands for Application Lifecycle Management. And this is HP's tool to manage testing as well as managing automation. We're going to go through each one of these facets within cFactory, and you'll see exactly how it works. So here's a screen. We have cFactory open. And what we do with cFactory is we point at the different screens within your application, and we create what's called a component. Literally with the click of a button, we will analyze each one of your application screens and create what we call a component. We can then use these components, or we're going to show you how to do that here now. So one thing you're going to see here is we're selecting a rules base. This is going to allow us to automate different applications, and you can see on the screen hopefully now, there's SAP, PeopleSoft, Flex, .NET, Java, all kinds of different types of applications and UI technologies that we can automate with cFactory. What we're going to do with cFactory is walk our application. So I've got a pretty simple application up right now, and that's to be able to book a flight. And what I'm going to do with cFactory is walk through the application, and as I encounter a new screen, I'm going to create a component for that application screen. So I selected new component, I click on the screen, I choose the objects that I want to add to my repository, define my object filter, and now cFactory is automatically going to create an automation object or a component for this application screen. And you'll see it doing right here. So literally with just a couple of clicks of the button, I'm going to create a component that I can use to build a test case. I go to my next application screen and I just rerun through the process of creating a component. So instead of recording and playing back, I'm creating components that automate everything on the screen. So no matter what data scenario I put through this application screen that I want to put through this application, I can go ahead and automate that by creating a component, a reusable component for this application screen. So literally we're just walking the application and and creating components for each application screen that I encounter. And it's literally that simple. And once again, and we'll see here very shortly that we'll be able to go ahead and create a test case out of these components, all without writing a single line of code. Okay? And so what you see at the bottom of the screen now is I've created 3 different components. Okay? One to find a flight, a next one to select a flight, and next one to book the flight. I went ahead and clicked on Save, and the screen that I see now is going to give me the ability to go ahead and save these components off into my ALM environment. So it's a repository of my components, or what we call a component library. I'm going to save them off there so that I can use them later on to create a test case by fitting these components together in the same order that I want to execute them in my application. Okay? So what we're seeing here is on the right-hand side I have my component library. And what I do is I drag these components in the order that I want to execute them. So if we look on the left-hand side, we'll see I'm going to log in. I'm going to come to the welcome screen, then the sold to, then the billed to, and then the line items. And each one of these components that we see, or puzzle pieces, represents the different application screen that I encounter in my application. And here we're going to show you actually what it's like to create a new test case within Quality Center, because we are integrated in with HP's ALM or Quality Center environment. So I created a new test called Book a Flight. I select components. I get my component library on the right-hand side, And now I'm going to drag and drop the components as I want to execute them in my test case. So I'm going to drag and launch my web application. Okay, this is going to bring the login screen. I'm going to come to the welcome screen. I'm going to find my flight. I'm going to select my flight. And literally it's just dragging and dropping the components that I created from the previous screen. I'm going to book the flight, and now I'm going to go ahead and close all browsers. So now I've actually created a test case that's going to go through the business process of selecting a flight. Now I created this master test case, and this is going to allow me to book a one-way flight, a round-trip flight, a flight between domestic cities, a flight between international cities, all within one test case. And we do this through our data-driven architecture. Okay? And so what I'm seeing here is I've created a test case. Our data driver technology, or our data management system, is going to create an Excel workbook that is based off the test case that I created. So I know it's a little bit small, but each one of the gray boxes that you see on the right-hand side within the Excel workbook are different components within my test case. If I drill down deeper into those components, I would see the fields that I can interact with within those application screens as well. There's also visual cues in the Excel workbook that are going to let my business users or manual testers know what that component represents, or a snapshot of that application screen. And we'll see that here shortly. Okay, so we store our data sheets with our test case, so they're stored all in one place. To create a data sheet, we go to something called the data sheet creator, and we're just going to navigate here within Quality Center to the specific test case that I created. In this case, book a flight. I'm going to click Generate, and we'll see that the Excel workbook that is created is automatically going to be attached to my test case. I'm going to go ahead and open up that test case, excuse me, that Excel workbook. And as I said before, you'll see the gray highlighted boxes are the different components within my test case. Each one of those represents a component. And then by clicking to the left of the component, I can get a screenshot of what that actual application screen looks like, a great visual cue for my business users and manual testers that are filling out the data. If I double click on one of the components, now I can take a look at what the fields that I can interact with on the screen. So we looked at the login screen, and now here's where I go ahead and enter specific information about the application. Okay, so here we're seeing type, passenger departing from, the date I want to depart from, arriving in. And now what you're seeing is our ability to go ahead and create multiple data scenarios. So by clicking on New Scenario, I can add a scenario that maybe is an international flight or a round-trip flight like you're seeing here. So I can enter in as many data scenarios for this test case as I want, and I can enter any iteration of data I want within each one of the components. If I don't want to go to a specific component that's in my test case, I can go ahead and skip those as well. So for example, within international flights, there might be an extra screen that I have to go to fill out passport information. Well, I just include that screen as a component in my test case, and for international flights, I can navigate there, and for non-international flights, I don't. I control that completely within the data sheet. As we know, just about everybody knows Excel, so very, very easy to work with. Okay, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into our data-driven architecture. And we're going to bring up a very similar scenario that I talked to when I was talking about traditional testing technology or record and playback. What you're seeing here is the same list of business scenarios that we talked about with record and playback, but now instead of creating a different script for each one of these business scenarios, they just become different data scenarios within my Excel workbook. Okay, so with record and playback, I had, call it 8 to 10 different test scripts that I had to maintain, and I had to make modifications to actual programs. Here, I create one master test case for creating a requisition, and then I let the Excel workbook drive how data flows through the system. Okay, so we're really going to a one-to-many. So literally, when we're talking about record and playback compared to our data-driven approach, we're talking about 10 test cases versus 1. So you can figure out the reduction of maintenance that we're talking about there. Okay, so this is just a little bit a visual of how our data-driven architecture works. We've got a master test case which is being built out here. Each one of these rectangles are components that we set up in a master test case. We let data driver do the work, okay, and we come up with different data scenarios, and then upon execution, as we run each one of these scenarios, we just navigate through the application in a little different manner. Once again, this is all handled through our data sheet and not through programs. Okay, so no coding necessary, is completely done through the data sheet. So, what does this do? As I said before, this reduces the number of test cases that I need to create and maintain, and obviously this is all done without writing a single line of code. Data driver allows us to do a lot of things that we have to do programmatically with traditional testing technology. Allows us to do checkpoints, data validation, looping and sublooping, and once again, this is all done, this is all embedded within our data-driven technology, and all without writing a single line of code. C-Factory is also going to dramatically reduce the amount of time it takes you to maintain your test cases. So incorporated in with C-Factory is what we call maintenance mode. What this is going to do is, we talk about components, and they represent application screens. And as we encounter application screens, we create components for them. But as we all know, applications are changing all the time. Okay? So as an application changes, or more specifically as an application screen changes, we can use C-Factory to compare the component that I've created versus the component or the changes that I made to my application. So, on the bottom here it says, on average, 80% of the testing effort will be spent on maintenance. What we've done with C-Factory is we've greatly reduced that. So you're spending more time on building new automation and building out further coverage. What C-Factory does is it takes the component from my component library, compares it against the application, and what we deliver to you within C-Factory is the comparison mode. Here we're identifying fields that have been deleted, fields that have been added, change in the order of operation, or fields that have been changed, say from required to not required, maybe a label change. So we identify all those differences. Then you can choose which changes you want to accept or reject. And we'll show you that here. Okay? Well, before we go on there, the other thing that we do is as we make changes to our components, that's going to require a change to our data sheets. C-Factory is also going to automatically go out to the data sheets and make the necessary changes, such as deleting a column because I deleted a field from an application screen, or adding a field. And we'll see that here on the next screen. So the fields highlighted in red are fields that are deleted. The fact that it's highlighted in red will make us skip this field upon execution. Green are new fields, and the yellow are change fields. Here's an example of how C-Factory works in maintenance mode. We're going to go ahead and open up a component. And we're going to open up the functional location structure here. That's going to open that component in C-Factory. Then we're going to click on Update from Application. And what we're going to do here is we're going to walk through and recreate the component from the application. So we've seen this previously in creating new components. I'm going to regenerate that component in maintenance mode. And what it's going to allow me to do is compare the new component versus the component in my component library. And we'll see that here in just a second. Okay, so here we've identified new fields that we've introduced to the application with green. The red fields indicate fields that have been deleted. Then I can go through and either accept all or accept, reject on a one-by-one basis. I can go ahead and close out of maintenance mode. And now I'm going to go ahead and save this component. Now this is great because now when we think about this, any test case that uses this component has automatically been updated. So make the change in one place and automatically replicates across. Now what you're seeing are the Excel spreadsheets that this component was contained within. We identified those spreadsheets and we give you the ability to automatically update those spreadsheets. So we've updated them. Now we're going to go ahead and open that spreadsheet, and here we're going to show you some fields that were removed and how they're highlighted in the spreadsheet. So not only do we update the component, update your test cases, we will automatically update your data sheets as well. Because we need to keep everything in sync. The components have to be in sync with the application, and the data sheets have to be kept in sync with your test cases. So everything's done automatically for you, all without writing a single line of code. The last thing that we want to cover here, and I've mentioned it a few times, is that once again, we are 100% compatible with HP's ALM platform. And the ALM platform provides much more than just automated testing. It has quite a bit more functionality around load testing, manual testing, requirements gathering, a whole slew of functionality. We integrate directly in with this solution and don't limit the use of any of it. So companies that already own or are planning on going to the ALM platform can continue to leverage 100% of its functionality and continue to leverage your investment in the HP ALM platform. Lastly, I just wanted to explain Turnkey's offerings. Today's webinar was on our scriptless testing solution, and we covered cFactory in detail, but cFactory allows us to create components automatically without writing any code, and then using these components to automate the generation of test cases. Literally by clicking on screens, customers can quickly create test cases for their applications. And cFactory also supports many different applications and all applications that QTP supports. Okay. Our other offering is we have what we call accelerator packages. Now, accelerator packages are pre-built components and test cases for the major ERP applications, such as SAP, Oracle, and PeopleSoft. And once again, what you get with the accelerator is a complete library of pre-built components and test cases so that you can quickly implement automation for your ERP applications. What these accelerators do is drastically reduce the amount of time for you to implement automation across the major business processes of all the ERP applications. Literally within about 4 to 6 weeks, we can automate many of the high-risk business processes and all the data scenarios within them. So lastly, I just wanted to reiterate our business values. One, with the scriptless solution, you're going to decrease the time it takes to build automation as well as maintain it. Since it's much quicker and maintenance is much faster, we're going to reduce the cost of automation. And since with our data-driven architecture, it's much easier to build out coverage, we're going to improve the quality and expand the scope of your automation for your applications. So that's what I had to present to you today. Hopefully everybody got a good understanding of what our scriptless automation solution is and how it improves upon traditional record and playback technology. I will open it up for questions now and take them as they come in. Venkat, are you receiving questions through the chat?
Yes, Brad. I think we're getting some questions.
Okay.
One of them says they're actually using the older version of QTP. So if they use this product, can they upgrade to the ALM version? So what does it take to upgrade to the newest version of a QTP if they buy this cFactory? That's one of the questions I got.
Yeah, so the supported platforms for to implement our solution are Quality Center 10, 11, and 11.52, and that's Quality Center or ALM. And we also support QTP 10, 11, and 11.52. If you're on an older version, as part of your HP support, you should be able to upgrade to the latest versions or one of the supported versions. But you can be on any one of those versions and implement this solution.
Okay. All right. So one of the questions I have is CP the tool that we must have for using the cFactory, or is it self-sufficient? Or that's another question I got.
Is cFactory self-sufficient, or does it require HP, ALM? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
Yeah. So cFactory automates the generation of BPT components, and BPT stands for Business Process Testing. That is an HP technology. So we do require the HP ALM platform, and that can be Quality Center or ALM, as well as QTP. So we do integrate and do require the HP tool set.
Okay. I've got quite a few other questions, Brian. How would cFactory update non-Excel sources when the page changes?
So cFactory is going to create components for each one of your application screens. And what we do with those components is look into what fields are required and transpose those into a data sheet. So as my page changes, I use cFactory in maintenance mode to go ahead and not only update the component, but also update my Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. I think, Anna, do you have any questions that you compiled as part of this one? Anna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. And a few other questions I have in this list, Brad, is does it work with any kind of applications, like say Microsoft kind of applications, or does it work with only web-based applications? Meaning VB, .NET kind of applications as well?
Yes, cFactory supports, well, first of all, it supports anything that QTP supports. So to get a good understanding of the level of support, which is quite extensive, you could go look at the support matrix for QTP. But in general talking, we support many of the different UI technologies that are out there. Just about all the web technologies, .NET client applications, applications written in Java. If you're using Adobe Flex, Power Charts, really, we just about support, all the different UI technologies. So there is a very, very, a very, very extensive list of applications that we'll actually support.
Okay. The other question I have is, does it work with any of the mobile kind of applications?
Could you repeat that one more time, Venkat? I'm sorry.
Does it work with any of the mobile kind of applications? So mobile applications, if I want to test using cFactory, is it possible?
Yes, actually Turnkey is partnering with mobile labs, and we're going to provide a solution for the mobile testing world. So the answer to that is yes. And what I would say is that, cFactory works in exactly the same manner. We literally look at the different application screens, for mobile applications, and once again, we're going to create components based on those. We'll still be integrated for the mobile space with Quality Center, so you'll still build test cases using drag and drop, still build data sheets, but this will all work for, the mobile application world.
Okay, all right. So one of the questions I got is, how does cFactory react when there's a defect in the application?
How does cFactory react when what? Excuse me.
When there is a defect in the application.
Yeah, well, so each component that is created is optimized for the specific application. So one of the things that you'll see cFactory do is upon execution, it's going to take a screenshot of the error that it finds and also report exactly the steps it takes to go ahead and recreate it. This is going to be reported back to you within Quality Center or ALM, and you can actually tie these defects that we find through automation back to the actual requirement.
Okay. What is your licensing strategy? Users-based or enterprise-based? That's another question I got.
Yeah, we have both. So we will sell, and we do offer enterprise licensing, which is unlimited use. And then we also have a concurrent license model where, you can buy so many seats of cFactory. There's a licensing server that monitors the number of licenses that can be used at any given time.
Okay, good. The other question I got is, what is the average maintenance effort that one must plan to spend for test cases?
Yeah, I mean, so, in any typical year, one might expect about, 30% change in their test cases. So that means about 30% of your test cases will have to be maintained. It really depends on the scope of the change. If you're going through an upgrade of some vendor-delivered application, you can expect more. But the thing to remember here is I no longer have to have an experienced resource that understands VB script or programming languages at all. I can identify the application screens that have changed and use cFactory to automatically update my components, which is going to change all my test cases that use that component. And my data sheets will also be changed based on the changes that are introduced to my application. So on average, and we've done many proof of concepts where that were metrics driven, we reduce maintenance compared to typical record and playback by up to 80%. We usually see about 70 to 80% reduction in maintenance, time spent on maintenance.
Yeah, that's definitely a great value add. One of the questions that, Brad, is very interesting. How do we bring you into our office to look at our application and suitability?
That's a very, very good question. One way that if you're currently using QTP, what I would say is if you're currently automating an application with QTP, then you can be ensured that cFactory will support it. If you're not using QTP, then what we do, when we engage with the customer, they'll have a laundry list of applications that they want to support cFactory with. They want to use cFactory to support. We'll do an analysis of those applications. Some of those applications we might have already have customers up and running, so we're going to tell them that right up front. If it's a homegrown application, we'll have to do maybe a 15-minute session to do some analysis to be able to communicate whether or not that application would be supported by cFactory.
Okay. One of the questions I got is, Brad, is an ERP application there can be several hundreds of lookups with various data values that are usually set up in test environment. Does the data sheet bring in potential values and ensure that we produce an error the data values outside the prescribed list of values? It's a very specific question about ERP kind of application, how they work. Probably I think it will need a much more deeper or elaborate answer. Let's respond back with the answer to this question in an email, Brad. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
But just in general, we can either use the lookup or we can enter data straight into it. So there's a couple options there, but I'll respond through email. That's fine.
Okay, sure. And one other user said, can you demonstrate test case execution for your sample test case? Probably this is another user can call one other attendant, so we can actually follow up with them and see if we can do a small POC for them, kind of, or a one-on-one demo kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things here is, to contact us directly. More than happy to set up, a more in-depth walkthrough of the solution.
Okay. All right. I think in the best interest of everybody's time, I think it's 1:52 now. We have scheduled this for 45 minutes, Brad, and I think we went over because of the initial hiccups that we had with the audio stuff. I would like to conclude, and I would like to thank you all for participating in this event and asking a lot of very good questions. The questions that we were not able to answer in this live webinar, I will definitely get back to you with answers, and we'll look forward to touching base with you and with providing all the answers that for your questions and clarifying all your questions. And thank you all again. Brad, before we drop off, do you want to say anything?
No, I just want to thank everybody for joining. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact you, and we will be following up just to see if there are any questions.
Yeah, sure. So we will send out the contact numbers for both me and Brad, and you can write to us, and we'll be more than happy to answer all your questions. And look forward to working with you and showcasing this product to you. All right, then. Thank you all, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.